Hello and welcome, everyone. This is the 155th I Need Living conversation. I'm with Blue Hair and Women, and today we have a special show for you called How the Eight Mothers Evolved Us into Being. So here we are, all ready to begin this wonderful conversation and this profound wisdom. Kind of went out for a little bit.
Yeah, I hit something with a finger, and
Oh, okay. And so go right ahead. I'm going to be looking. So my audio is not the best right now, right? Because I haven't changed the.
It's okay.
No, it's really good. Actually, it should be good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
This is what I wanted to change. Okay, camera. There we go. So the audio is good. Oh, amazing. Yeah. So let's kick it on.
So we're going to talk tonight. We've talked before about our 5 elemental lights. That's how we were spun into form first. And now how we co-evolved with the rest of creation into form. So a man named Jose Ortega y Gasset said, "Tell me the landscape in which you live, and I will tell you who you are."
Okay, yeah.
The Bagua of the I Ching set forth 8 fundamental principles to describe change. Embryologists also know that there are 8 metabolic fields of development that form the embryo from the outside in. So where do these fields come from? And so what we're going to do now, sorry, it's got to go to the door and let in a dog. It got cold, so the doors are now closed. And
okay.
It got not cold. It got to be fall weather. We had a little bit of a frosty morning this morning.
Oh, that's great. Cool.
Yeah. We did last year too at this exact same time. So okay, so where do these fields come from? Well, so now we're going to marry the 8 environmental forces of change from the Bagua with the 8 metabolic fields, with our 8 chakras, the spinning energy centers in our bodies, and the 8 planets of our birth charts, and physical landscapes to show, to enliven, to embody how we co-evolved. And we're going to have to tessellate because they don't all fit together. So we're going to have to, and as a quilter, I guess I've been taught how to tessellate because nothing I ever cut fits right. So I have to learn how to fold, which is tessellate. I have to learn how to
fold dimensions. I like folding dimensions. It's what makes sense.
So we were not placed on the earth. We emerged out of the earth. And every day we consume part of the earth in order to stay alive. So the great landscapes of the planet are our ancestors. They arose from earth as we did, and their energies evoke potentialities within us. They formed us. They formed the metabolic fields somehow, some way. We're going to tessellate them together. We're going to kind of loosely stitch them with all kinds of folds in there.
Okay.
So none of these things are external or extrinsic to who we are. They were woven into the core of our being since they helped form us. So the 8 principles or environmental forces of change from the Bagua are heaven and earth, water and fire, thunder and wind, mountain and lake. Heaven and earth establish our basic place in the cosmos. Heaven is above, the source of weather, the seasons, light and warmth, as well as the sun, moon, and stars by which we measure time. Earth provides us a place to live, food to eat, all the riches of the precious minerals, and thousands of other benefits. So we live between heaven and earth, and all our needs are fulfilled by them. There is nothing we can manufacture for ourselves that without being first gifted by both heaven and earth. And that is important. Let me say that again. That's one of the most important concepts we need to understand, is that there is nothing that we manufacture, not the steel mills, not the nuclear power plants. There is nothing That is manufactured by humans. That was not first gifted to us by heaven and earth.
Yeah. Even the ideas of what we make come from nature.
Exactly. The air we breathe, the sun that warms us, the wells that quench our thirst, the land that supports us, the food we eat, the timber and stone for shelter, everything we need is given to us. So we, in our naked softness, can do nothing without heaven and earth. Okay, so let's shift to the 8 metabolic fields that form us as embryos. These are a corrosion field, a suction field, a densation field, a contusion field, a distusion field, a retention field, a dilation field, and a detraction field. And we're just going to leave them there. The landscapes that we know of are deserts, forests, oceans and rivers, mountains, grassland, lake, and of course, heaven and earth. So then we have 8 chakras that are our wheels of life in our body, our energetic body, through which all these forces work.
So these 8 fields, let me just say before you continue, they're kind of like the different energy fields that shape biology, right? That make
that shape the embryo.
The different parts of a cell, if a tissue is going to go.
No, that shape the embryo. That absolutely shape the embryo.
Okay. And you're joining that with the 8 Bagwas, the elements of Chinese Tao, and now the 8 chakras. Okay.
Right. And the landscapes. And the planets of our birth chart, because it's all intertwined.
That's amazing how much presence there is with the number 8. And then it wasn't a coincidence that our little symbol here for Aloha Aini Dao Living is an 8 circle symbol.
Yeah. So the I Ching system has a Bagua for early heaven, or the primordial Bagua river chart, which refers to the archetypal order of things before creation, before everything emerged. The later heaven sequence is called the manifested Bagua river chart and refers to the order of change or co-evolution in the manifested world, embodying the cycle of birth and death and the day. So, in Taoist philosophy, when the world began, there was heaven and earth. Heaven made it with the earth, who gave birth to everything in the world. So heaven is father, earth is mother, and the other 6 are their children. So heaven, father, in the primordial Bagua, the direction was south. Heaven and father came from the south, associated with summer, and the personality is strength, power, and creativity. The meaning is expansive energy. But in the manifested Bagua, once we came into being, the direction shifted to the northwest, and it associated with the fall, with the autumn. It's still creative, expansive energy, and all the rest. And it's linked with our head, reflecting its connection to decision-making and vision. From the earliest times, we have looked to the heaven as the origin of all things outside ourselves. We regard it as the source of mysteries, and we see the home of gods in its unlimited vastness. Every generation before us has measured time by heaven. Though measurements were less exact thousands of years ago, and though we now have better methods of accuracy, our clocks, our maps, our calendars, our nautical navigation, our meteorology, and astronomical calculations still depend on heaven. Few of us can manage without a clock, weather reports, and the calendar. These things alone remind us that heaven provides the context for our lives. Nothing we have accomplished in our civilization alters the seasons. Nothing changes the solstices and the equinoxes. Although nothing we have made can eliminate the need to conform to day and night, or the need to make plans with the weather and the time of year in mind. So heaven is time and the conditions that affect us. When faced with the panoply of change heaven provides us, we can act according to the circumstances, but our actions must come from our hearts. No intellectual system alone can guide us. So in this sense, we must become the heaven that sets situations in motion. We can go through gates instead of standing paralyzed. We can become heaven, the heaven like a father who acts and works. And we can act and benefit all that we touch as surely as the sky sends sun and rain. So heaven creates time and circumstances, and we must accept that. That's just an absolute truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's immutable. It can't change. Heaven sets time and circumstances.
Yeah,
And
we
at the
can't do.
same time, we must find heaven within ourselves,
Mm.
because we create with what heaven gives us. And in so doing, we become heaven itself.
Mm-hmm.
So with this meaning of expansive energy, we could say then that heaven provides the dilation field of the embryo, and the planet to correlate this would be Jupiter, whose energy is also considered to be expansive. So dilation fields are like pulling apart an expandable structure,
Okay.
expanding it. So in dilation fields, the living inner tissue cells become extended and aligned in bundles and sheets, which become muscles.
Mm-hmm.
So, to go to landscape, then heaven, or heaven, woman, or mother, or eighth chakra, is located above our head in Andean terms. In Incan medicine terms, it's called the Huiracocha, which is our
Mm-hmm.
personal sun. Others might call this energy center our higher self. It's located above, about 6 inches above our head. Okay. So the next is Earth, or Earth Mother. The primordial Vaguas has her direction as north, associated with winter. The personality is receptive energy, meaning that which yields. But in the creation, the manifestation Vagua, the direction changed to southwest and is associated with summer. Still being receptivity, nurturing, and stability, and it's linked with our bellies, our abdomens. So the Chinese character or pictograph of Earth was created from the image of a growing plant and a bolt of lightning. Without the Earth, the electric force of heaven has no place to go, even with its overwhelming energy, so it seeks Earth to ground itself. A seed will not grow without air, sunlight, and rain. It also needs the earth to hold its roots and provide nutrients from the dirt. And Earth can do something that no other power can do.
Mm-hmm.
She can take the dead and make life again.
Wow.
So without exception, everyone makes homes on Earth. She lies beneath all things, supporting all plants, trees, rocks, animals, and people. And no matter how great our statues or pyramids or skyscrapers may be, each one of them stands on her. So all of nature depends on Earth. The valley is the Earth flattening and opening herself to the sky. The lakes accumulate in her hollows, and without the Earth, water cycles driven by heaven would not be possible. There is literally nothing we can hold, eat, or live in that is not connected to the Earth. The virtues she inspires are numerous. Virtues like acceptance, support, receptivity, modesty, and perseverance, just to name a few. But the greatest virtue she exemplifies is patience. She proceeds on a time spin unique to herself. Water dries up, fire is extinguished, the wind dies, thunder ceases, lakes evaporate, mountains crumble, and yet Pachamama is ever present. So by geological time, our human structures are momentary flickers. But by Earth time, the sprouting of grasses, the sprouting and falling of forests, the thrusting and tumbling of mountains occur as rapidly as the flashes of a many-colored robe. So Earth teaches us to be patient, supportive, and modest. Heaven may provide the days and the seasons, but Earth teaches us how to make use of that time.
Mm-hmm.
She shows us how to turn waiting to our advantage, because everything worth doing takes time to develop. And she teaches us to think of what matters against the long perspective of geological time. So with this meaning of yielding, we could say that Earth provides the corrosion field and her planet is Venus. Corrosion fields do just what the word says. They corrode, creating holes like the embryo's mouth and the aorta.
Mm-hmm.
And so then Earth Woman or Mother would also be the root chakra, and her location in us is our genitals, our pelvic floor, and a bundle of nerves called our coccygeal plexus. Her
Okay.
function is survival and grounding. Her inner state is stillness, security, and stability. And the rights she gives us is the right to be here and the right to have things.
Okay.
So water is the middle sun, and it's also the ocean and river mother landscape. In the primordial Bagua, the direction was west and was associated with autumn. The personality is abysmal, meaning danger, rapid rivers, the abyss, and also the moon. In the manifestation or creation Bagua, the direction turned to north and became associated with winter. So it's also the potential for renewal, and it is linked to our ears. This is water splashing over rocks in a ravine. To drink, we must climb down into a dark and slippery pit. So it teaches us how water remains uncompromised by danger. Water may represent flowing downward, coldness, darkness, and liquidity, and it also shows eternal integrity. Whether it's a single drop or vast ocean, whether it's ice or steam, water will always reform itself into its purest state, and all life evolved from water. Our bodies are predominantly water, and the layers that makes us humans are thin, very thin. Noble persons seek to be as fearless as water. They spread their personalities instead of holding rigidly to one doctrine, and so they give equal emphasis to all parts. By facing change with the clarity of water, we act without prejudice and preconceived ideas. Like water flowing in a cavern pool, we can enter a situation and fill it completely. And like water that always finds its level, we can maintain equilibrium. And like water that flows downward, we never shirk any task that will serve others. So we could say that water gives us the sensation fields. Water and ocean river woman give us the sensation fields, and the planet is the moon. The sensation fields are like a sieve that hold a mix of solid and liquid, allowing the liquid its downward movement. And the result is close packing of cells. 70% of our planet is water. 70% of our body is water. Our heartbeat replicates the pounding of waves. Water brings us alive both literally and figuratively. It pulses through the rills and channels of our bodies, arises from lust as saliva on our tongues, forms salty seas for swimming sperm. We can experience water in steam, cloud, ice, rain, snow, and flow. Earth holds 326 million cubic miles of water, and all but 3% of this is stored in our oceans. So the oceans form the largest area in the universe known to be inhabited by living creatures. The Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean is the deepest sea canyon on Earth, plunging at its lowest point to a staggering 36,201 feet. At its bottom is a world nearly unfathomable to us. Imagine a place of intense darkness, freezing temperature, and immense pressure. So the depths of the world's oceans are filled with strange and mystical beings, uniquely adapted to life under pressure. In places, the biodiversity there exceeds that of the rainforest. And more surprising still, we've discovered that many of these creatures of darkness are actually creatures of light. Beyond the reach of the sun's rays, a fire shooter shrimp releases self-created luminescence like a galaxy of stars into the ocean night. Golden corals show when something brushes against them. A starfish twinkles like diamonds. Spirals and cords of light create a dazzling fireworks display. So in the deepest and darkest places, living beings make their own light. This is the second chakra. Her location in us is our lower abdomen. In women, it's our womb. In men, this would be your hara, the Japanese concept of the hara. Her function is desire, sexuality, pleasure, procreation, and creativity. And her inner state is feelings. So next one is fire. She's known as the middle daughter, and she's the grassland woman. She's grassland mother, grassland woman. The primordial Bhagavad, the direction is east and associated with spring. The personality is clinging, meaning rapid movement and radiance like the sun. In the manifestation or creation Bhagavad, its direction shifted to south and it's associated with summer and it's linked with our eyes. As water is the beginning of life, fire is the beginning of civilization. So every time we use a force of nature, we must be careful that it does not turn around and destroy us. Fire can be channeled. It cannot be tamed. The sun and stars are orbs of fire, and we use the fire of light to measure light years in space. We need warmth to counter the winter. We revel in the warmth of our own bodies, the embrace of loved ones. True to fire's dual meaning, it also fire can signal destruction, the heat of a serious fever, the rising of rage when we lose our temperature. And it also represents brilliance, insight, and intelligence. It symbolizes the heart and the creative, intuitive powers that emanate from our hearts. Light can scatter, and it can be fractured into different colors. So consider what happens when light is concentrated through a lens. It can make ordinary sunlight burn. It can cut like a laser. So concentrated light is a powerful force. Imagine if we could take the fire of our intelligence and focus it as through a lens. Our heart is our hearth. It's the center of our being. Warmth, vitality, and the light for perceiving emanate from it. We must stoke the inner fire to work, to heal, to burn away impurities. Fire is our center of vitality, as our sun is the center of our solar system, and the hearth is the center of a home. Act from that warmth and all will be well. So with this meaning of rapid movement, we could say suction fields are what the fire and grassland woman provides. And her planet is Mars. Suction fields are like pulling apart bellows that we use to put oxygen into the fire. And they create our glands and more, these suction fields. The steppes, I think that, or the steppes of Asia, the pampas of South America, the tundra of Northern Europe, the prairies and plains of North America, heartland and the rangelands of Australia, the great African savannas, home to the great migratory mammals and the first hunter-gatherers, grasslands sweep across the planet, covering a quarter of our Earth's surface. Grasslands are the fields of possibility, frontiers of hope. But it seems like hardship is seeded into the history of grasslands, as is community, rich land and rolling hills that welcome us, like the prairies that balance open space and expansive freedoms with the deep rootedness of the grasses. The grassland challenges us to find balance between lifting as authentic beings and part of community. This would be our solar plexus chakra, where where they work through. And her location in us is from our navel to our solar plexus. Her function is willpower and assertiveness, and her inner state is laughter, joy, and anger. So next is thunder, which would be the eldest, likened to the eldest son, and would be forest woman. In the primordial Bhagavad, the thunder eldest son direction was northeast and associated with winter. The personality is arousing. And so its meaning is excitation, revolution, and division. In the creation or manifestation Bhagavad, the direction changed to east and associated with spring, embodying vigor, the vigor and enthusiasm of spring, and it's linked to our feet that carry us forward. Every song begins with a beat. Change begins from sudden initiative. It takes great force to break inertia. And one of the traditional ideas of thunder is that it awes us and calls us to reverence. Thunder is also a metaphor for subtle ideas. Thunder indicates the beginning of all change. Change is cyclical and cycles must have beginnings. Thunder comes each year and each storm is familiar because we've experienced storms before. Their trembling registers as muscle memory in our limbs. At the same time, each storm is different and the havoc it can cause will vary. Each season occurs in perfect order, yet each season is new in itself. So all events are therefore cyclical, repetition, and unique in occurrence. So they're very cyclical. We can depend on it, but each season is unique, very unique. And since I've been really paying attention, absolutely, very unique. Thunder teaches us to search for new beginnings with myriad cycles. It also challenges us to adjust our view so that even the slightest movements can be noticed with the same attention that a storm demands. Thunder is our first grunt as we put our shoulder to the wheel. It's the instant we lift our hand to a task. It's the joining of oxygen and hydrogen to make water. And it's the energy released when atoms cleave. So from the meaning, we could say that thunder and forest women provide the distusion fields, with Uranus being their planet. Distusion fields are like a piston, pushing things apart. And forests comprise about 30% of Earth's land surface. Forests take many shapes and forms. The soaring redwoods of California, the broadleaf woodlands of Vermont that change so dramatically with the seasons, the brooding boreal forests of the northern hemisphere that are home to wolves, big cats, and bears. And it was in the forest that our primate ancestry took root and human evolution began in earnest. So our hands knew bark and branch long before they picked up spear and spanner. In the forest, our brains developed with manual dexterity and spatial acuity as we attuned to playing in the trees. So forests are an invitation to breathe wild air, world mothering air. Forests help Earth to breathe and us as well. So in the forest, our creativity rises like sap in a tree. And she works through our fourth chakra, our heart. Her function is love. Her inner state is compassion and love. The next one is wind. Also, for the Chinese, for Bagua, was the eldest daughter, and it would be desert woman. In the primordial Bagua, the direction was southeast, associated with summer. The personality is gentle, meaning gentle penetration and flexibility. In the creative manifestation Bagua, the direction changed to southeast and got associated with spring, linked to our thighs, once again, that carry us forward. Once set in motion, the blowing of the wind can't be stopped. We can't change the wind. We can only engage it. So wind concentrated and amplified can erode cliffs and uproot trees. Wind, it weaves the atmosphere around our planet into a design of oxygen for our breathing. It scatters pollen and seeds for new growth, lofts migrating birds thousands of miles so new generations can be born. Wind, on its gentle and penetrating currents, 1,000 forms of life. Also mind movement in the grandest of tapestries. From the meaning, which is gentle penetration and flexibility, and the wind is at least as I've experienced in Oklahoma, it's not so gentle. But from this meaning, we could associate contusion fields with the wind, and the planet would be Mercury. Contusion fields push things together in a springy lattice. More than 1/5 of the Earth's surface is desert, and desert comes in many forms. The red rocks of Utah, the painted deserts of Arizona, the Great Plains of the Gobi, the Sonora with its forest of cacti, the Mojave, and the Kalahari, the hottest and driest places on the planet. We experience the desert in winds named like Kamsin, Sirocco, and Simoon that shape and reshape the terrain, making and remaking the land. We experience wind and desert woman in the cracks and creases of our skin, in the thirst on our tongues, and more. And we carry the desert within us in our timeless terror of snakes. And speaking of which, about a week and a half ago, I was standing on the edge of my porch and I looked down to see this gray snake. I've never seen a snake like that before, and it was crawling into a black tub that was standing there and had some water in it. And all of a sudden it sensed me, and its head come up, and I saw that its underbelly was brilliant yellow. Okay. So it it sensed me there when its head came up, and it turned and it ran. And so I went and looked it up, and it's called an eastern grayback racer. It moves really fast. It's not
Wow.
venomous, but yeah, they have gray.
That's a
They're
cool
gray
name.
with yellow bellies.
I love snakes. I don't have that of being
That
afraid. When I
terror.
see a snake, I want to run and grab it. That's my reaction to snakes. Like, oh, how
Right.
cute. That's what I think.
The vast majority of us have a terror of snakes.
Yeah, I know. I guess that's why I'm called Katari, is snake and Quechua.
That's what Katari means?
Yeah,
Katari is it snake?
means
Wow,
snake.
that's cool. So, and incidentally, she showed up just after I had started working with the Incan medicine wheel again and calling in Sachamama, spirit keeper of the South. So,
Yeah.
right. So, fifth chakra. I'm associating the fifth chakra with wind and desert woman. And her location in us is our throat. Her function is communication and creativity. And her inner state is the synthesis of ideas into symbols. So then we have mountain, which is associated with the youngest son and would be mountain woman. In the primordial Bagua, her direction was northwest, and associated with autumn. Her personality is still, meaning stillness and immovability. In the creation Bagua, the direction changed to northeast and got associated with winter and is linked to our hands. A mountain is unmoving. As a supreme barrier, it symbolizes limits. It also symbolizes stillness. Like a volcano arising from the folding of Earth's crust, the mountain is a petrification of force. Heaven and earth move, yet we see only solid things. We must understand that all molecules and atoms are bound together only temporarily. Even though some of the bonds outlast a human lifespan, they will eventually break. So we speak of constant flux and still include the solidity of a mountain. We need to give solidity a time frame. For what appears solid is moving so slowly, it gives the idea of being fixed. So mountain represents two types of behavior, meditation and anger. One is solitude for spiritual purpose. The other is a solitude that degenerates into alienation. Ultimately, the stillness of the mountain represents the culmination of what we do. It means placing limits on limits. It's the proper understanding of how to move and stop, how to be flowing and then firm. It is the peak of moving and stillness at the right times. So we could associate mountain woman and mountains with the detraction fields, and Saturn would be the planet, and bones arise in detraction fields. Mountains soar to snow-capped peaks and slice the sky. In sunlight, they recall the spiritual grace of cathedrals. Gods of the planets, mountain rise to touch the heavens. They shape the landscape, affect weather, form boundaries, and influence the flow of water. And the peaks of the mountains are actually known to be homes of the gods. So we can climb there, but we can't stay there.
Yeah, never thought of that.
They are
Like
anchors and icons and sacred places. Mountains are formed in many ways, from volcanic uprisings or collisions of land plates to the steady carving by glaciers. The taller the mountain range, the thicker the Earth's crust needs to be to support it. Life in the mountains is a grand adventure. It's filled with risks, challenges, maybe setbacks, and sacrifices. So the mountains give our lives a heroic edge, and we can associate her with our sixth chakra, the center of our eyebrows. Her function is to perceive and to command, and her inner state is seeing and intuition. And the last one is lake, or lake woman, and the youngest daughter. In the primordial Bagua, her direction was southeast, associated with spring. Her personality is joyous, meaning joy, but also stagnation. In the creation manifestation Bagua, her direction changed to west and associated with autumn, as same still with joyous personality, right? And it's linked to our mouth. So are we joyous? Or do our mouths spread joy or sadness? Right? Or complaining? In contrast to the mountain as concentration culminating in solidity, the lake is concentration through pooling. Wherever waters form a lake, life springs from it. So the lake is a symbol of exchange, reminding us of festivals, and it could also become a marsh, the perfect place for rice to grow. Most of all is the teaching that there is a place for joy in our lives. And so retention fields could be associated with the lake, with Lake Woman, and her planet would be Neptune. Stretched tissues are formed in the retention fields. This would be our ligaments and tendons. Lakes are always spots that draw us to navigate and play. In the Incan mythology, Lake Titicaca, the highest navigable waterway in the world, was called the womb of the Inca Empire. They considered her to be a reflection of the celestial realm, and her name is believed to mean rock of the puma, as Titicaca comes from the Aymara language. The puma is a powerful animal that symbols strength and royalty. The Inca's creation story had the god named Viracota rising from the lake and creating all, followed by the first people, Manco Capac and Mama Ocllo.
Ocllo. It's Manco Capac and Mama Ocllo.
Mama Ocllo.
Ocllo.
Okay. I knew you'd correct me on that. I knew I had no idea how to pronounce that.
Yeah, it might get confusing with the C's and the double L's.
Yeah,
it's Spanish, but then it's not a Spanish word.
Right, it's different. So signifying the connection between humanity, the divine and natural world, the emergence from the lake is more than just a physical event. It represents a spiritual transition, a passage from the divine realm into the human world. So their story of Lake Titicaca is deeply intertwined with Pachamama, or Earth Mother. Pachamama represents the essence of Earth, a living entity that provides sustenance, life, and fertility. And the lake was seen as a reflection of Pachamama's power. The emergence of the first Inca rulers from the lake symbolized their responsibility to protect her and their dependence on her bounty. Their agricultural practices, deeply rooted in respect for Mother Earth, were designed to nourish and sustain the land and the lake as it was seen to be sacred. And that's where we'll end. Next week, we're going to go into getting to know these mothers better, much better.
Okay. Does the name change? Is it a second session, second version of this conversation, or?
It's getting to know your clan mothers. It's same thing. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to tell people that this is part of this research and investigation that is being carried out. And if they're interested in getting to study this, then they would need to join Owl Dojo, one of our Owl Dojos. So we're in the process of crafting and visioning a very, very big thing, many self-sustainable communalism ranches throughout the world. And while we get there, you can already participate and join. You can visit the website, alohanidaliving.com, and you can join the Owl Dojo. We're trying to craft different ways for you to participate, but they all involve commitment. They all involve a decision. You have to take the decision to become free, to stop being a slave of the system, to stop being dependent,
successful.
Dependent on the system, dependent on the same mindsets that have kept us there, that have been created to keep us in that mindset. So that's the challenging part, because we really need to face our most deep beliefs and fears and limitations. We need to overcome all of those. And here at Aloha Nidao Living, we work the whole thing. Freedom
Right.
is all or nothing is one of our mottos. So you're all invited for this, to really study this and become not just somebody that studies it, but somebody that continues the research, right?
Yeah. So, right. So standing on the shoulders, since we ended with Lake Woman and Lake Titicaca, standing on the shoulders of the Incan Empire and the ancient League of the Iroquois. They now go by the Haudenosaunee, but pre-conquest, they were known as the Iroquois.
Okay.
So we don't want to, the League of the Haudenosaunee now is different. They're still
really?
trying to do the same, but the League of the Iroquois was much more, the League of the Haudenosaunee has been taken over by the colonizers, basically. They're still trying, not taken over, but really infiltrated. So this is why I'm saying the ancient League of the Iroquois.
Right. Yeah, that happens with many indigenous nations and groups. That's, the distinction of being indigenous or not, blood-wise, is really irrelevant. What really matters is, where's your mind? Where are your actions?
Right.
Are you really, really like thinking from that ancient spirit, or are you kind of still put in the flask of this structure and mindset and these institutions, and thinking that, oh, this is the only way we can do this. We have to do it through the institutions, through what's established.
Right.
Because that means you're ignoring the fact that these institutions and establishments and even legal systems that we go by, they are all fundamentally illegal. They shouldn't be here.
They're all bullshit. They're all yeah. So anyway, we are imagining a time not too far from now in which every single person who gets up and goes to work loves what they do because they're dreaming big and they're fulfilling their dreams while they're serving a purpose that is caring for each other, providing ample food, water, shelter, and comforts of life for each other, taking care of Pachamama, and creating a surplus to share. So this is the world we can see. You and I both, we agree on this, right? We can both see this world. We also see a world of free exchange of goods and services without the exploitation of each other and Pachamama and all our more than human life world, and without governmental coercion. So can you imagine going to work every single day, loving what you do, and the people you work with, having a purpose? Can you imagine becoming the best version of yourself, the better and better version of yourself every day? So how do you think that would impact your work and personal life? So this is the world we imagine. And it's possible if we work together. It's more than possible. It's absolutely probable if we work together to create it. So join us. Choose to dream big. Choose to fulfill your dreams. Choose to live a life of purpose. Choose to be an inspiration to others around. And if and when you do, we will be successful. So as you dream big and fulfill your dreams, inspiring those around you, every one of us will wake up every day absolutely in love with life and be going to work to care for each other, our earth, and their next 7 generations, instead of just seeking to create a legacy for our little tiny immediate families. So in the words of John F. Kennedy, that I have seriously changed, ask not what your country or your government or your state can do for you and can do for your homeless and your food hungry, food instability people, so you don't have to. Instead, ask what you can do for those people, for your world, and for our next 7 generations.
And for our trees.
For our more than human life world.
Yeah. Okay.
For everyone, for every being on this planet.
There it is. So that's that consciousness and empathy is a requirement for a really fulfilling life.
Well, that's the call. That's the challenge, to be of service to a much higher purpose than anybody is of service to right now.
Right. But then what some might not imagine is that when you are on that path of the service, you would think, oh, if I'm selfish and I don't want to follow that because I can then have it all for me. But then in that path, you become impoverished and you become sick and you become poor in so many ways. And when you follow this other path of service, you find richness, you find wealth, you find health.
True wealth. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's something really important that people need to know.
Yeah.
And with that, I guess I will end this session and invite people for the next one.
Right.
Okay. So waterfalls of blessings for all. See you next week.